How to deal with time in manifestation. This is a super popular topic and I'm going to be talking to you about it right now. Hey, welcome back. I'm Dan. I talk about conscious creation, manifestation, intentional living, all that good stuff. And today I really want to focus on the concept of time in manifestation because everyone wants to manifest something quicker, something faster. They want to put a deadline on it. Sometimes I understand we're in a time crunch. We got bills to pay and there's a deadline in our 3D reality that says this needs to be done by this particular date. And so we get so wrapped up on it and it messes everything up about manifestation. So this is why I actually like to not recommend dealing with time when you're manifesting, okay? If it is something that's like a few months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road, that's totally fine, right? The reason why I say this is because the resistance to that is far less. Because our logical mind, our logical brain that we're brought up in thinking in this world is that so with time, our brain thinks that there is so much that can only happen from where we are to where we can go, right? To achieving our manifestation. And usually it should take X amount of time. So the longer the X amount of time you're giving yourself for the manifestation to come in, the lower your resistance to it is because it's further away, right? And so that's also the reason why I don't recommend manifesting on a time. Can you do it? Yes. And I know people have manifested on a time crunch. I've done it before, but it's not the way that they manifest it is not by harping on the time aspect of it. The people that manifest on a time crunch that actually get the manifestation the fastest and easiest way is actually by not focusing on time. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit later in this video. Okay, so why, first of all, why do I not recommend focusing so much on the time? The reason why I don't focus on time is because time essentially is an illusion. We only have a perception of time because we're experiencing this 3D reality and the way that, reality is structured around us and what we're experiencing. Seemingly there's a past that leads to a present that leads to a future. All right. And so we think that things can only happen based on what we observe. But let me tell you, there are ways that the universe and reality can shift and change that bring us things in ways that we can't even imagine so much quicker than we expect, that our logical brain would think that's not even possible. But in essence, it is possible. Things can just pop out of nowhere, right? And here's the thing, when you are dealing with time, you are basically saying, hey, I believe that this should take this amount of time. I just need a solution that makes sense for me, crammed in before the deadline. And guess what's going to happen? For most people, they're so tied to the 3D circumstance when they're trying to manifest, they're going to keep repeatedly looking back in their physical 3D reality. And every single time you're looking at your 3D reality, and it's not here yet, the manifestation is not here yet, but oh no, I've got a week to go before I need this, right? I got a few days left before this bill needs to be paid, right? Whatever the deadline, you're putting such a deadline, a close deadline on yourself. And what that is it triggers them. The 3D reality triggers them because they're going to say, hey, it's another day past. You're just basically putting an extra factor on yourself, a trigger on yourself. Because when you're looking in the 3D reality, it's not here yet. What state are you embodying? What's the state? If you're looking at, it's not here yet, but the time deadline is there, what state are you doing in that moment? In that moment, you are embodying the old identity, the state that doesn't have your manifestation, the state that still hasn't experienced what they are hoping to experience before the deadline. And the more that you are in that identity and embodying that, then you're going to continue to lack the manifestation. If the person that already had received the manifestation, they would not be worried about time. Essentially, it comes down to that. That's all it is. And that's why it's so difficult for the majority of people to really manifest on a time crunch. Right? So how do you actually manifest on a time crunch? You don't worry about time. You trust that the universe is going to be able to sort it out because you're not meddling with the how. When you are trying to manifest with time, you're meddling with a factor of the how, right? You let that go. You let it be. Remember, when we're manifesting, we're not working. Where our job is done. Our job is to go into our imagination and embody. Which not even in our imagination. That's just a tool that we can use. We simply have to embody the state where we already have our manifestation and desire. As soon as you do that, it's done. Our job is done. Now, time is part of the universe's job. They're going to bring it to you. And actually, the people that don't look at the external 3D reality circumstances are, in fact, the ones that are able to manifest the quickest, the fastest, where the time crunch doesn't even matter. The deadline doesn't even matter, because guess what? That deadline, the universe can probably give it to you in half the time that you think it might take, right? That is not even possible. Something that's not even possible by the deadline, the universe can probably give it to you the next, not even a half a time, in the quarter of the time. Because every reality is different. Every reality is separate. Every reality change is just based on your identity. If you are the identity of the version of you that already has manifestation, you would not be worried about the concept of time. Is there something to do with something called the time delay? Yes. I don't want to really get into that. Yes, there is. Because, if with time delay, right? Why is there a time delay? First of all, the amount of time I like to talk about time in the way that it makes sense to most people is, in terms of manifestation, is that the amount of time it takes for a manifestation to appear is generally based on the amount of time that you need to be able to shift your identity from the old identity of not having the manifestation to the one that does, right? But there is also something called a time delay in our actual 3D reality. Right? So when people talk about instant manifestation, they're just simply talking about you have instantly manifested that reality that you're embodying the new identity. Yes, that is instant manifestation. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that's the quickest, shortest way to getting what you want. But yes, in our actual literal experience of the physical 3D reality, there is something called the time delay, because it's obviously, if we were in a state where we're just manifesting actually literally in our physical 3D reality instantly, then remember, manifestations go both ways. They can be positive or they can be negative. So every negative thought that we're thinking is going to instantly pop up and manifest. It's just for our own protection, right? Because if that was the case, then, well, most of us perhaps would be in some sort of accident or dead already. Because, whatever you think, it just appears. Whatever you think, it just appears. So there is something called a time delay. Okay, but I don't even want to get into that right now because it's not even relevant. The point is that you go after the end in your mind, in your imagination, and it's instant right there, right? We might not experience it physically in our 3D reality. I get that, right? But in that particular moment, but you have to understand that when you're in that moment of having that wish already fulfilled, that desire, that experience, you're embracing and embodying that new identity. You're not worried about time. So don't worry about time. It's going to come in a way where time is not even a factor, because it's simply a separate reality. They're all individual moments. Every single individual moment in time is a separate reality. It's a different configuration of all the atoms and all the energy in the universe, of you, of me, of, everything, every object, everything that exists. Anyways, that's a concept that's even more advanced that I don't want to get into right now. But my point is why you shouldn't worry about time and manifestation. And that's why, right? But if there is something that's urgent, that you do feel that you need something by a particular time or date, it's okay. You can definitely manifest before that, right? But you need to, by doing this, you need to not focus that you need to manifest before that deadline. Because when you're doing that, you're not embodying the version of you who already has that manifestation or desire, where that already has come in for you. So don't worry about needing something by a particular date or time. Okay? Simply embody the version that already has it. Take no heed. Think of it when it comes up, when you think it, when you get triggered in the 3D external reality. It's the same as any other situation or circumstance that's unwanted. If it's a time factor, just say, hey, this is just mind and ego. Remember, I'm awareness. I exist at all times. I'm source. I'm all realities already, all creations already finished. I'm just simply selecting the reality where I have the thing, that problem is already solved. And guess what? Most of the time, The situation or circumstance is going to resolve itself. Most things are not quite life and death. Or I don't want to say nothing is, but most things are not quite life and death, right? Most things that we are trying to manifest on a time crunch has to do with like having a bill getting paid or not missing a flight or and you have to understand that the what you really want ultimately will be happening to you if you don't worry about it, because you're still using your logical brain to figure out this is how it's going to be and I need this by this amount of time. It's like, no, just let it happen. Let it be. Live your life. Don't worry so much about time. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. And the faster you shift into that identity that already has a manifestation, the faster it's going to come in. Because if you're focused on time, you're still not embodying the new identity, right? You're still meddling with the how. At the end of the day, thinking of time in your manifestation is part of the how. All right? You're just throwing an extra factor in there that's unnecessary to do, and in fact can bring up a lot of resistance and trigger you back into the old state and remind you of the old state, because you're always looking at the 3D reality and looking at the time. Oh, it's getting closer to the time, right? And it keeps pushing you back into your old identity. So don't make it hard for yourself. Just say, this is not my job, right? The time, not my job. I've done what I needed to do, which is embody the state of already having my wish fulfilled, my desire, my manifestation. And the rest is up to the universe. Reality is going to conform around me. All right. So I'm going to leave it there and hope this clears up time and manifestation for you. It can go even more in depth than this. Maybe in the future I'll make a even further video on how time is all separate, it's illusion, all that stuff. But for now, the most common question is, how do I manifest on a time crunch? Well, you can, but you do it by not focusing on the time crunch. All right. If you do have any comments or questions, leave them down below. If I do have time, I do answer them quite in depth because I can't help myself. I really want to help people and treat it as a resource to have access to me while I have the time to do so. Sometimes I don't, but whenever I can, I do try to do that. And if there are any topics that you want me to talk about related to manifestation, I'll definitely make a video on that. All right. Thank you so much. I hope all of this helps, and I'll see you all soon.